If you can run a marathon, you can run 100K.
But only if you train the right way.
What? Why?
I'm generally confused then.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back to 3 miles.
Hi.
Today, we're going to talk about how to train for 100K. So this is the first episode in our new series.
Yeah.
Last year we did how to train for 50K. This year we're leveling up.
We are.
We're doubling it.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I have my coach Lydia, who has ran probably like
Just a couple.
so many 100Ks. It's her favorite distance. So today we will talk about how do you actually train for 100K. Like,
Yeah.
where do you start? What do weeks look like? Do you need to do long runs, speed runs?
Yeah.
So many questions.
And we'll be diving deeper into things as this series goes on. But today we're starting with the basic pillars.
The basic pillars. And to make sure that we don't forget any essentials,
Yeah.
we have got some notes.
Yeah.
So we will start with where do you need to be at before you start training for 100K lits?
Oh, let me refer to my notes. Well, I think you obviously need a base fitness. I think, you're starting with a certain amount of miles or kilometers. You're not going in with, running 5K a week. I mean, you can do anything in this world. I'm not going to say you can't, but I think it would be silly to have run 5K and then try and run 100.
Yeah.
For your own health, for your bone health, for just everything, recovery afterwards. You want to have a good base fitness level.
Yeah. So in the intro I said if you can run a marathon, you can run 100K.
Yeah.
Would we say like a marathon, like 42 to 50K? Like maybe people have done a 50K before.
Yeah.
That's a good range to be in.
I definitely think it is one of those progressional things, isn't it? Like you start with a 10K race, you move to maybe a half marathon. If you've run a 50, then jumping into 100 is probably that next progression.
It's kind of crazy though, right? How we go. We're basically constantly doubling. If you think about it, like a 10K to a half is almost double, a half to a full is double. Then, okay, 50K is not double, but it might be in time.
Yeah.
And then we're like, okay, we're doubling again.
Yeah.
Like, where's the
it's a big
75K?
jump. And then all of a sudden you're like me, running 200 miles.
Yeah. And then there's also...
It's a slippery slope, guys.
Yeah, you go from 100K to 100 miles and then you double to 200 miles.
Yeah.
So, and also I think the interesting thing here is also for people watching is often 100K is not
Crap,
100K.
stop my watch, sorry.
Oops. Oh, same.
Let this car go as well.
So often 100K is not 100K, right? It's like a 50K can be basically anywhere between 45 and 55.
Yes. Yeah, it can really vary. Some courses are pretty bang on, about 1 or 2K off.
Yeah.
But you'll find with like a lot of trail races like UTMB and things like that, it can really vary.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes up to about 10 kilometer differences, which is quite a lot.
It's quite a bit. It's quite a bit. So imagine I have done, say, a marathon. Let's just take that as our starting point.
Yes.
For me, it's a 50K. But yeah, a marathon. How many weeks should I take to start training for 100K? Because it seems quite a big jump.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, if you want a really good build up to it, you're looking at 16 to 24 weeks.
Yeah.
To really get feeling comfortable with those miles. If you're looking at a bit more of a performance rather than, 100K you are looking just to complete. I think your first one, because you don't know what's out there, what challenges you're going to face. It's a completely new realm.
Yeah.
But if you're really looking to, you're definitely going to complete and do it to what you think is a good ability, then I think you're looking at a solid build at 18 to 24 weeks.
Yeah, and it's also just to be able to avoid injury, because otherwise you're probably going to get, like, you will increase your mileage way too fast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're starting to build up. And to what kind of mileage are we building up, do you think? Assuming it's somebody's first 100K, right?
Yeah. So I think baseline, you want to be running about 50 to at least 70 kilometers a week. You want to be starting at that.
Yeah.
At least.
Like in the start of the training
In
block.
the start of the training block.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, if you can sit there comfortably, you've obviously done marathon training.
Yeah.
You know, you obviously got those miles, and you want to be building up to. It's quite hard because obviously everyone's different, and every training plan is different.
Yeah.
And also, some people work better with more miles and some people don't. There's no one set rule, but you could be looking up to anywhere from 100 kilometers a week to a lot more than 100 kilometers a week.
Yeah.
So I'll sort of say, let's say as a baseline, you want to at least have reached 100 kilometers a week before that 100k. But I'm going to say most people will get a lot higher than that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like you will see a lot of 50k plans get into like the 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that 100 would go
More than that.
well over.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that is 16 to 24 weeks of training, probably more like 18 to 24.
Yeah.
Building from 50 to 70k a week to at probably around
I'd say mid 100s.
mid
So like
100s.
100 and 130 probably.
Okay. Then we're doing all that. What kind of runs are we doing? Are we still doing long runs? And if so, I mean, we are.
Yeah.
But okay, bit of a rhetorical question, but how many, like what distance are we building up to in the long run?
Yeah, so that's also can be very different for different people. If you're very maybe prone to injury or have come out of an injury. Also, I guess I'd like to caveat on that. If you're going into a 100k training plan, you want to have been injury free for at least 3 to 6 months. Don't think about going in to a 100k training plan if you know you've literally just come out of an injury.
I mean, I think that's a very good tip actually, which most people are probably just ignoring.
Yeah.
But it makes so much sense. You're going to put so much stress on your body.
You want to be in a good place beforehand.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay, so we are injury free for 3 to 6 months.
Injury-free.
So how long are these long runs maybe going to be?
Yeah, so I would say you're looking at 2 different versions. You're looking at one person that has a lot of time on their hands, a lot of time to recover, maybe doesn't have a super stressful job. You're probably looking at big long runs. You know, you can go out for a 5-hour training run and you can go on long hikes, get a lot of time on feet. And when I say a 5-hour training run, like you don't have to be running that whole time. You can be hiking, you know, just generally getting used to being out on the course like that. Then you're looking at person 2 that maybe has a very stressful job, children, things going on, or just generally doesn't train well with those longer runs, doesn't have, you know, doesn't like doing them on the weekends, has family commitments. That person is looking at splitting up those runs. So you're still getting the same time on feet as person 1, but you might be getting up in the morning, running a half marathon.
Yeah.
And then in the evening, you might be going back out to do, you know, an hour walk and then a 15k or something.
Yeah.
You know, splitting those things up. So you're able to get in the same sort of time on feet.
Yeah.
But, you know, maybe it's not ideal, but you just got to work with what you're going to go work with. And at the end of the day, when you get to the start line, those miles are still those miles.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're looking more at time on feet and kilometers here.
Yeah, perceived effort, I think, as well.
Yep.
You know, I think someone could be out for 5 hours, and if they've been training for a long time beforehand, they might be getting a lot of kilometers in.
Yeah.
And if you're new to the ultra game, you might be getting half those kilometers, but you're still out there for the same amount of time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, because I think, indeed, like also depending on where you live, those 5 hours might be a lot more, a lot less.
Yes, 100%.
So, but would you say that the long run might become like 5 hours?
Yeah.
If you would have the time to do it in one go.
Yeah, I would say if you're looking at 100k, it'd be great in your training plan at some point to race a 50k.
Yeah.
Because that's a great way to have aid stations, to have a bit of an easier time in training, get a long run in.
Get a medal for your effort.
Yeah, exactly.
But also you need, what I have found is that those 250Ks, they expose your weaknesses.
Yeah.
So they really show you what you need to focus on. And the thing is, you could do a 5-hour long run on your own, and maybe you should do multiple. But doing it in a race, you're probably going to push it a little bit more than when you're doing it alone.
Yeah.
And that will really show those weaknesses a bit more.
Yeah.
You're gonna feel it more.
Definitely.
Okay. So long run, maybe we build it to about 5 hours. And that could be one long run, could be 2 runs.
Yeah.
Could be a run, hike, run.
Yeah.
With 5 hours on feet.
And I really would suggest practicing walking. I know we've had another video about this as well in the past, but I really would suggest that you go out there, and it feels wrong, I think, at first, but you go out, and I'd say if you have a hilly area, you practice hiking those hills.
Yeah.
Because in the 100K, there's going to be some walking out there, especially if it's your first one. So you just want to get used to stopping and walking before it's too late.
Yeah. Because I think what people might not realize is when you're running, you stop to hike because something is so steep that you basically can't run it.
Yeah.
And it's not just that it's steep, it might also be really long.
Yep.
You know, a hill might be so long that if you were to run it, you're just burned out. But also from then starting to run again, that sensation in your legs is something that we need to train.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy for people to cramp up then.
Yeah.
And you see this all the time in these races. People stop, maybe for the aid station, maybe because they want to walk uphill.
Yeah.
With the walk uphill probably being a bit heavier.
Yeah, and if you're not used to starting, you're used to going out on a run, finishing the run, that's it.
Yeah.
It's going to feel very different.
Yeah.
Getting going again.
Yeah.
On some stiff legs.
Okay, so long run covered.
Yeah.
Stop start covered. Now, what does a week look like? Like, what kind of runs are we doing throughout the week? We have the long run, we have probably easy runs.
Ooh.
Are we doing any speed work at all?
So I would say, also very dependent on the person.
Yeah.
Got to always say that.
Everything is individual. In
exactly, yeah.
These are very general tips.
Yeah. I would say in the week, you've obviously got your endurance runs. So you've got a couple of runs where, you know, it's steady pace, easy, conversational. You're going out there, getting the kilometers in. Then during the beginning of your training, you're building up those miles. You'll keep the speed in there. You'll probably reduce it a lot more, and the speed will look very different from your marathon training.
Yeah.
So it'll be more like tempo runs, where you bring the speed down. You're not doing short blasts, and you're just keeping that speed, but for a longer, prolonged period of time.
Yeah, probably like 2 times 20, 3 times 20.
Yeah.
Instead of 3 times 10.
Exactly.
Or something like that.
And then as your training progresses, especially if you're doing hilly elevation, that hill training will sort of then take over those tempo runs, and you'll be focusing on the hill training rather than the fast tempo work.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, say, especially in 100K, you're probably going to have some elevation in there. You're wanting to do that same effort on, say, your tempo run, but you're adding it to hills. So you're still going hard, but you're focusing more on the hills. And that also then protects your legs so much, because uphill work is great for any injury prevention.
Yeah.
You're still getting that really hard effort in. You still feel like you're doing that tempo session, but you're going uphill, and that pace is reduced.
Yeah, so what you're saying is go by RPE, so rate of perceived exhaustion, instead of the actual pace.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so we're doing easy runs, maybe some speed work at the start, might change into hills.
Yeah.
And long runs.
Yeah, and definitely reducing the speed, especially if this is your first 100. you might be reducing your speed pretty much completely. If this isn't your first 100, then you're probably keeping that speed in there, but it's just looking a little different.
I think the last thing in our training plan here would actually be some strength and mobility.
Strength and mobility, 100%. Always strength and mobility, no matter what.
It has to be part of the plan.
Yeah,
right.
Try and get it in there 3 times a week. And even if you can't get to a gym, or the gym is the reason that maybe you're not doing it. I think sometimes you're like, oh, I've got to go to a gym, and then you just don't do it all week because you're like, don't have the time. I only have 30 minutes. Just do it at home. With a elastic band. A resistance band. Do that instead, because that is better than nothing.
What is your absolute favorite one exercise that you would recommend for these ultras?
Mobility. Mobility. Anything to do with your ankles. Ankle strength. As we know from me wobbling my ankles on the last 50k. But I do a lot of calf raises. They're amazing. Obviously anything to do with one leg. That is absolutely great.
Isometric movements are really good. I would say I need lunges.
Yeah.
They kind of do everything. They focus on your knees, focus on your ankles, and also they were given to me by my coach for basically preparing my quads for those downhills.
Yeah.
Because that's when I get super sore. And I was like, how do we work on that?
Yeah.
Lunges.
Yeah.
Walking lunges, preferably.
Yeah.
If
anything with movement. And then don't be scared of heavy weights.
Yeah.
It's
going like this. Yeah.
And don't be scared of those heavy weights. And then obviously this will be in your plan, but as you taper, you'll be reducing the strength that you're doing, and then the week before you're pretty much doing no strength. To keep yourself fresh for the 100k.
Okay. Well, that seems like a pretty solid training plan to me.
It does.
Right?
And then I guess the only thing moving on from that is you want to make sure you're looking at elevation.
Check your route and elevation.
Check your route. Check your elevation. And that will really determine what your training plan then looks like. Obviously if you're doing a flat ultra, flat 100k, or flat in the grand scheme of things, that's probably like 1,000 to 2,000 meters elevation over 100. Then should we turn her? Then you don't really need to get a lot of elevation training. Obviously you're still going to be doing your hill repeats because it's great for your training, but you don't need to focus on getting loads of elevation. Whereas if you're like me, in this weekend, obviously I'm doing 80k, not 100, but the elevation is big. So
it arguably is harder than a lot of 100Ks, this one.
It means you're going to be out there a lot longer than your usual. I mean, I'm going to be out there longer than my 100k time. So you really need to practice. So if you live in a flat area, you're going to get on the stair stepper, you're going to get on the treadmill, put it on incline. And if you are somewhere with hills, obviously you're going to be really practicing those. So knowing your route and knowing the elevation is very key at the beginning, because it will impact your training.
And then I think like people watching this might be like, okay, but what about fueling and nutrition?
That's
another episode.
That is another episode.
That's another episode.
I think in the nutrition episode, we'll talk about obviously how we do it during the 100k, and then pre and post as well.
Exactly. What does it look like in training as well?
Because training looks a lot different. You're going to be upping those miles. Gut training, we'll talk about that. How to have an iron stomach.
how to kind of approach your rest and recovery, maybe cross training. So lots of things to talk about. But to keep this one focused on the training plan, this is what you need to know.
I think that's it.
All right. See you guys in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.